Welcome to CSE Guru. In this session, we will discuss the second category of function, that is function with parameter and no return value. So here, the function with the parameter is nothing but the calling function is going to send parameters to the called function. But the called function is not going to return any value to the calling function. So this is the second category. Since the called function is not going to return any value, we have to use void function. So the return data type for the function is void with parameters, along with the parameters. Okay. So there is a data transfer from the calling function to the called function. So here calling function sends some values to the called function, and the called function is going to receive data from the calling function. Okay. But calling function cannot receive data since the called function is not going to return any value to the calling function. So there is no data transfer from the called function to the calling function. But there is a data transfer from calling function to the called function. Okay. Since it is sending parameters. But called function is not going to send the return value. So function must be coded as a standalone call because it does not have a return value. So the example here is the same addition of two numbers we have used along with arguments. Okay. So this is the header file, and here this is nothing but the function declaration. So here this is nothing but the function declaration. And this is nothing but the function call, that is the calling function. And this is nothing but the called function. So here, this is function declaration. Since the called function is not going to send any value to the calling function, here the declaration of function is void. The return data type of function is void. Okay. Add is nothing but the function name. And parameters are nothing but A and B. So both the values we are sending from calling function to the called function. Okay. And the parameter should accompany with the data type. Both the data type is integer. So we have placed int A, comma, int B. If there are more than one parameters, that should be separated by comma. And this will end with a semicolon. So this is function declaration. Other name for function declaration is function prototype. And this is the main function. And inside the main function, we have declared two variables, A and B. Enter the two values and store with the variable A and B. So now, what is the value we are getting here for A and B? That value we are going to send here. Okay. So this is a function call. Add is a function name, and within bracket we need to place two variables A and B. That is nothing but these values. Whatever we are getting from the console here. And the parameter or argument we are going to pass from the calling function to the called function is A and B. Both are integer data types. So here we have declared in main as int A, comma B. Already we know in function call it is not necessary to specify the function name along with its data type. Similarly, the arguments also it is not necessary to specify along with its data type. Since the variables A and B already we have declared as integer in the declaration section. So here the calling function is add of A, comma B. So send the values. So when a function is called in the sense, immediately control will be transferred to the user defined function. Okay. So here now the user defined function completely it will execute. The meaning is this one line statement will replace here the complete code of user defined function. In that way we need to imagine. Okay. So here this is a one line statement only. This function call is a one line statement, but control will be transferred here and control will return back only when this user defined function completes its execution. So with this return statement we comes to know this user defined function completes its execution. immediately control will be transferred back to the calling function. Okay. So now if we are considering this user-defined function, this is a void function. It is not going to return any value here to the calling function. So the return data type of function is void. Add is the function name, and within bracket, two parameters we have received. Okay. From the calling function, that is this A and B. So here int A, int B. A is the variable with the data type integer and B is also the variable with data type integer, and both should be separated by comma. And this part is nothing but the function header part. Okay, function header. And this whole part, if we are considering, this is nothing but the function body part. And this whole user-defined function is nothing but the function definition. We already know function definition consists of two parts. Okay, that is the function header and function body. So here, this is the function header part. We already know the function declaration and function header should be same in all respect. That is the return data type, function name, and within bracket, whatever the parameters we have specified along with the data type, everything should be same, except only one difference here. The function declaration should end with a semicolon, and the function header, it should not end with a semicolon. Okay, so this is function header. And this is the start of the user-defined function, and this is the end of this user-defined function. And there are three parts in function body. One is the local declaration, that is int sum. And these two statements are execution, that is sum is equal to a plus b, and printf statement. These two statements are the execution part. And then the third part in function body is the return statement. And here we have declared one variable, that is sum. Add those two values. These two values, where we will get the value for A and B? This calling function, what is the value of A and what is the value of B? That will be sent to the called function, and the value will be carried here with this variables A and B. So now this user-defined function will have an internal store of these two variable values. Okay, which is passed as a parameter from the calling function to the called function. So now A will hold this value and B will hold this value. Add those two values and store with the variable sum. And print the sum value in the output screen. Okay. So after printing, just return this user-defined function. So immediately control will be transferred to the calling function. So here we have simply placed the keyword return. Now, once this execution is completed, when it reaches to this return statement, meaning is user-defined function has completed its execution. So immediately control will be transferred to the calling function. Okay, and this main function, now it will return its control to the operating system. So now the program execution is over. Okay, so here if we are considering, the calling function is sending data to called function. So there is a data transfer between calling function and called function, but the called function is not going to return any value here. So there is no data transfer between called function and calling function. So here this is a one-way communication. Okay, only calling function is sending data to the called function, but called function is not sending any value. Okay, so this is the concept of function with parameter and no return value. So in this session, we have discussed the second category of function, that is function with parameter and no return value. In the next session, we will discuss the third category of function, that is function without parameter and return value. Thank you for watching this video.